Tonight on Left Hook, Right Jab, we are talking taxes. Republicans in the House are pushing ahead with their tax plan, hoping to vote before Thanksgiving. Their bill would reduce who pays the so-called estate tax right away and phase it out over time. The tax only affects a few thousand people, but Republicans often bring it up when arguing the tax code is unfair. Steve Novick and KXL's Lars Larson join me now to debate the estate tax. Welcome, gentlemen. Here is your question tonight. Should Congress kill the tax, or does it serve an important role? And Lars, you're up first this week.
Thank you, Laurel. I think we should kill this tax because the death tax is ultimately unfair. It doesn't generate much money. Steve's going to say it's $20 billion. I'm going to say it's 12. Out of a $4,000 billion federal budget, it's inconsequential. But here's the truth of it. All that money is coming to the federal government from people who've already paid taxes on all their earnings and then carefully built businesses or put together family farms, and they get taxed like crazy, and then they die, and the government wants to tax them one more time. The super rich, the Bill Gates, the Warren Buffetts, and those people, they arrange their way around it. They won't pay it because they've already arranged to give away their money to the people they choose to give it to, so it only applies to a very small number of people in America. I say we get rid of the death tax. Yes, death and taxes are inevitable, but you shouldn't be able to be taxed after you're dead, Steve.
Well, Lars, the estate tax only applies to estates worth more than $5 million, or for couples, $10 million. So it doesn't apply to hardly any small businesses or family farms because they're not worth that much. Teddy Roosevelt supported the estate tax because he lived in a time when America was dominated by a few rich families like the Rockefellers, and he thought that was unhealthy. We live in a time like that now. The richest 1/10 of 1% own as much as the bottom 90%. That means if you have 1,000 typical families, with 1,000 families, one of them owns as much as 900 of them. The estate tax is a way of preventing that kind of inequality from being passed on generation after generation until we become a country where how successful you are doesn't depend on your own efforts. It depends on who your great-grandfather was. This business about double taxation, it's silly. It's really a tax on people who are inheriting the money. They haven't paid taxes on it. And a lot of rich people's wealth is in what's called unrealized capital gains that hasn't been taxed at all. You say $20 billion isn't that much money. It's not much compared to what we spend in the military or Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, but it's more than twice as much as we spend on the Environmental Protection Agency. It's more than twice as much as we spend on Head Start. It's a big deal.
I'll tell you what, you bring up the EPA, I'd like to cut them all together. Here's the bottom line to this. You watching this tonight know how hard it is to accumulate any amount of money at all. Equity in a house, equity in your 401k, money in your savings account. After you've done that hard work of accumulating all that money, is it really reasonable, and paying taxes the whole way, is it really reasonable for the federal government to walk in and say that if you want to leave some, and you've managed to accumulate that kind of money, if you want to leave it to your kids, that we're going to tax it again? I'm not going to be hit by this tax. The super rich aren't hit by the tax. And the fact is, Americans should be free of this tax, Steve.
Well, if the super rich aren't hit by the tax, we should eliminate the loopholes so that they are. But Lars, you're proposing a policy that's against hard work, because if there's no estate tax, then all of these rich kids never have to work a day in their lives. Is that good for America? But Lars, really my question for you is this. Do you think it's healthy to have a society where if you have an average group of 1,000 families, one of them owns as much as 900 of them?
I'm out of time.
So Lars can't answer that because he's out of time. We'll have to wait until next week. Lars and Steve, thank you so much.
Thanks,
We'll see you next week for Left Hook, Right Jab. Tracy and Joe.